Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. To some and peace out to the rest of you. The blackest hearted, blackest minded, blackest man on social media is signing black in and shining again, asking you to hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. Now, a commentator rightly said, I am disparaging my people for our poor use of a poor language, meaning that English is a bastard language anyway, according to definitions. Now, languages evolve, so chances are they all start off as bastard languages, just as they say all religions start off as rebellions. The question will be, why would I, so pro-black that it's always in my name, with my fist in the air, sit up and disparage my people who've had their language taken away from them for using a language that was forced on them incorrectly? My reason is this. It's not even a reason, it's reasons. My reasons are, number one, it is our first language. Now, there were those of our ancestors who came over, or went over, I should say, to the States, for whom English was not a first language. That's true. But now, today, it is our first language, and we have AAVE as well. AAVE is all we have of the African languages inside of the United States, along with the Gullah Geechee English. These are Creoles, as they say. And these languages, they came about from African people being forced to speak English and not being allowed to speak much of their own. So they had to hide what African vocabulary they had to use inside of something else, inside of English, make it seem like they were just too dumb to learn proper English. That is linguistic rebellion and survival. The evolution of AAVE, which itself has multiple forms, is perfectly okay. We also have to have a standard or a formal English. We need this. AAVE has been taken now as an excuse by a lot of us to just mumble, and that's not acceptable. AAVE is necessary. You can call it Ebonics if you want. We need it. That Africanized English that we speak in the United States. By the same token, we need the Jamaican English, which is also an Africanized English spoken in Jamaica. And the related varieties that you're going to find, not necessarily in Jamaica, but in other Caribbean islands that speak English. They have their own versions of English, and they're needed too. But by the same token, we are people who don't have weapons. So in order for us to fight somebody else's plans to oppress us, what we're going to need are going to be tools that can get into other people's minds and shape them. Now, it may not necessarily win us a bunch of allies, but what it will do is it can at least prevent enemies. This is important right now. The prevention of unnecessary enmities. That's going to be done through language, and other people are learning English. English is an international language. Fortunately, we have access to learn it. But it is not AAVE that is an international language. It is formal English. Learning it and using it is a weapon. Malcolm did this. Now, you don't get no blacker than Malcolm. You don't get any more pro-black than Malcolm. But Malcolm also was a very reasonable person. He didn't say that you have to take the street hustlers lingo and annihilate it. What he said is that you must also use the formal English. And you can tailor your message to whom you speak. However, you must still have both. We don't even have AAVE anymore, the younger ones. It's mumble. Tell a young teenager something that they don't want to do, watch them mumble. They're not saying anything. That's not AAVE, it ain't English, it's mumbling. Monkey chatter. Because they think that they're monkeys. And that's an interesting thing to notice, because how the hell did they come to this conclusion? They got that from us elders. Now, this time I say us elders because I'm including myself amongst the elders. They got that from us. I know. When I taught 7th graders, I'll never forget one lady said to me, a young lady, 7th grader, said to me, "But Mr. Black, don't it's true? Don't it's true that black people is part dog?" She said that to me. I didn't say this. I wouldn't say something like that. I wouldn't even compare us to the primates that are the most similar to humans, the chimps and the gorillas. I wouldn't even make that comparison between us racially and them, because the only black man that it's okay to compare to a gorilla is me. I actually act like one. And truth be told, they're not even that aggressive. You see, they're largely too lazy to be aggressive. I tend to be an asshole and I can still be lazy. So I actually combine the worst of humanity and the worst of gorilla traits into one. So it's okay to compare me to a gorilla. But it's not okay to compare the rest of us, and I don't do that. But yet and still, when I look at what we're doing when it comes to language, I'm watching us, witnessing us firsthand do exactly what the hell we should not be doing. We should not be taking it and devolving it into something that doesn't really make sense. We can't do that. And we're doing it. And we're making it impossible for us to talk to each other. I don't know why we are, but we are. So I don't even care what the reason is anymore. No one told us to start, no one told the youth to mumble to that point. But the reason why, the psychological reason that they will mumble to that point has something to do with us as those who have raised them. So that being said, Malcolm got it right. And so I'm promoting what Malcolm promoted. And most of us back then did not write as piss poorly as you see us writing nowadays. Secondly, let's look at why somebody for whom English is a first language would never write correctly in it. No punctuation and no proper spelling. Why would someone do that? Simple. In a case where, in a country wherein no education is free, people may actually come up with a rudimentary understanding of reading and writing in this language. But in most nations where English is a first language outside the continent, there is free education, public education. It does exist. So why the F do we not see the evidence of it in our communities in the States? Now, I understand a lot of white folks can't spell for shit either. I get it. Matter of fact, somebody once told me that most porno actresses, he didn't say this about the actors, he said most porno actresses cannot spell. And they have to have proofreaders when they put up their websites. They have to have proofreaders when they put up their websites. So that people can read what the hell they're writing. I didn't decide to go and check it out. That's illegal here anyway. The attempt is illegal from where I am. So I took his word for it. But he told me that if I ever had to go back to the States, I could have offered my services to porn actresses so that whatever text they want to put on, I'd simply proofread, send back to them. They cut and paste it, put it on their website at that point. I was like, okay, good to know. I don't think I'm going to get involved in that. So the thing I'm getting at is that when you take a society wherein education is free, at least up to the level at which you will become functionally literate at an adult level in your first language, and people are not that way, that means they have a bad attitude towards education. And our people do have this. Most of our adults don't have it, but our children do. That's the problem. The children have a bad attitude towards it. They don't learn how to write correctly in their first language. Similar to the Dominican Republic, which is why the Spanish is so jacked up. Yeah, I said it. Your Spanish is ucked up. Okay, you can still speak it among yourselves. That's fine. But you can't switch to formal Spanish. You cannot pronounce formal Spanish. You cannot be understood by people that don't learn specifically your slang. That's where you become crippled. And you can't go to the States from the Dominican Republic and learn AAVE in a classroom. And I'm going to get to that in a bit. But first things first, what I was saying right now. It means you got a bad attitude towards education when you're young. Life slaps the shit out you. You wake up in a prison cell, and then when you get out, you want to school the rest of us on how woke you are, but you were too cool for school when it was free. That attitude never helps any people. I see it here with the Gulf Arabs, especially with the Bedouin. It doesn't help them. They're jacked up. It really does not. You might think everybody got their stuff together. You would not want to trade places with these Bedouins even if they have money. That's how bad it is. Because you would feel like you're becoming a monkey with money because of the intellect. If they jump from their shoe size to their IQ, they commit suicide. You wouldn't want that. Well, guess what? Same thing for them. Education in the Gulf is free for a citizen all the way up until the graduate level. They can pay if they want, but they don't have to. And they get stipends to study abroad, especially if it saves them money, so they do it. You know what? They don't learn how to write correctly in their language. They don't learn how to speak their language correctly. Oh, that's not all. Yeah, that ain't all. Guess what else? The attitude towards education sucks, especially when they're young. They get older and life slaps the shit out of them too. So when they get older, and all of a sudden they're not even fluent in formal Arabic, proper Arabic, just their national slang, only that. Then they want to be bilingual. You can't do that. Got to learn the Arabic Fusha first, the classical Arabic. You got to learn that from the beginning. Then when you learn that, you can take that and go to English. If you don't speak proper Arabic, you cannot learn English, or any other language for that matter. You speak the slang, you can't learn another language. I kid you not. So guess what happens then? Then they're 33 years old. The language center of their brain has fossilized around not only Arabic, but the slang version, specific to their country or their region. Only that. Their language center has fossilized. They never learned anything else. They wasted the years when education was free. And guess how they're acting now? Hey, you, look, I want you to teach me English. How do you think that's going to work? Well, you come to my house. We'll drink tea and coffee, chit-chat a little bit. And you think you're going to learn English that way? No, I'm going to have to explain it to you. Look, you remember when you were in English class as a kid? Yeah, you didn't learn it then. And remember the way the teacher taught it. He actually explained it to you. He used vocabulary words you hadn't heard. You weren't interested in that. You were bored with it. It's going to be the same thing when I tell you. You're going to be bored. You think you're just going to start to understand it because I speak it? No, you're going to answer me in Arabic. And I'm not going to understand your slang. And you ain't going to understand my English. And eventually, when it's time for you to pay me for them lessons from which you didn't benefit, then you ain't going to answer your phone no more. And then you're going to be stuck in the same thing. I have to tell them this. But see, they're held back and they rely on foreign labor because of this attitude they have towards education. That's why. Hey, it works out for me. But at the end of the day, when they get sick and tired of foreigners, because we're not going to respect everything about their culture, because some things are dysfunctional. When they get sick and tired of seeing us in their country doing a little bit better than them and getting jobs before they do because they don't trust each other, guess what's going to happen? They're going to get mad and there ain't going to be nothing they can do about it because they still won't change their attitude towards education. It's the same thing with you, the masses. If you won't change your attitude towards education, you're not going to be functionally literate as an adult, but you're going to want to school us when you were too cool for school. If you're too cool for school when you're young, you can't school me and many others like me on a goddamn thing when you're older, because you can't write it correctly. So fuck the shuck up and listen. We'll school you. Knowledge will flow this way from us to you because you didn't want it when it was free. You're lucky we don't come along and say, yeah, I'll school you, but you're going to pay me, and you're going to pay me a fortune that you don't have. You're lucky it ain't that. Oh, you're so lucky. I should sell this pro-black stuff, but I don't. I should use it as a hustle, but I don't. Maybe that's my mistake. Maybe I'm stupid. But then again, I guess it wouldn't be really pro-black if I were to try to sell it. Maybe. I haven't really come to that philosophical decision yet. The other reason, like I said, is that Malcolm utilized both. He found that happy medium. The knowledge of his oppressor's language was a weapon. The knowledge of his people's lingos was a weapon. Language can be a weapon. You don't turn down a superior weapon because your enemy likes it. Now, you may turn down an inferior weapon because your enemy likes it, or a weapon that doesn't really make a difference, but you do not turn down a superior weapon because your enemy likes it. You get a sample and you reverse engineer it, and you come up with something that's going to make it obsolete. That's how you do it. And that's on the real. So, we have to get our minds right to a certain extent, and that does involve being functionally literate in our first language. And I do not want us to drop the AAVE. Don't lose it. Just like the Egyptian is never going to lose the Egyptian effed up Arabic with which they speak. They've turned it into another language. They ain't gonna drop it. And you know what? Maybe they should keep it. It's their business. But it's the same thing with you. Keep it. But even when you write in AAVE, if you're going to do it, then at least let me give you a bit of advice and then follow it. When you come to a word that has not been agreed upon how to spell, such as gone, not gone as the past participle of go, have you gone there yet? No, I'm talking about going to. Are you going to travel Wednesday or Thursday? That one. You come up with a new spelling. When you are spelling something that has no agreed upon spelling, but is pronounced in a certain way, then you come up with a new spelling for it. G-O-N, G-A-W-N. That's how you do it. That's how you would do it. G-O-N-N, short for Ghana, which itself is short for going to. That's one of the better ways to do it. If you're going to write in AAVE, then you come up with another spelling for something that has no agreed upon spelling from before. Ghana, that's not what you said. You said gone. Are you going to travel? Okay. G-O-N-N. That's how you would do it. Now, I say that because when you don't do that, you turn around and you take other words that have other meanings, and then you F up the sentence, the meaning of it, and people really will not be able to read what you write. As an example, are you going to travel? Are you going to travel Wednesday or Thursday? You don't spell or, A-R-E, that's R, dummy, not or. And that's what you all be doing at times. Y'all be doing it, y'all be making that mistake. Writing down A-R-E when you need to be writing down or. Can't spell the difference between your, and your, or there, and there. You need to know that, dummy. And why I'm saying that is because when you're writing, it's not like when you're speaking. And not only that, if you can't spell it correctly and you change the meaning of it on paper, other people for whom English is a second language, but they still speak English, only learned formal English, and they're not going to be able to understand what you're talking about. If you're going to write in AAVE, you write in AAVE. It should be very clear that this is another dialect of English when somebody reads it. It should be. You're not doing that. Excuse me. What you're doing is you just misspelling. And then you're going to sit up there and hit the reply button like we supposed to understand it. No. Don't ever hand me your phone with a message written on it and it's misspelled and there ain't no punctuation at the end of the sentence. I'm going to hand that phone back to you and say, that's not even a sentence. I know, right? Snobbish, isn't it? Well, that's what the hell we need. Because if all we have as a language, as a weapon is language, then we need to use it the right way. There's rules to this. Turkish was not always written in the Roman script. Now it is. There's a proper way to spell each word. Somali was not always written with the Roman script. Now it is. There is a proper way to spell each word. Same with Bahasa Malayu, the Malay language. Same thing. There's a proper way to spell each word. If I want to say New Village, Kampung Baru, I'm not allowed to just write it any way I want to. There's a way to spell it. And I ask, before I write it down, what is the proper way to spell it? And they'll tell me. We're not the only people that are this bad. We're just the only people that demand to get away with it. And we're actually screwing ourselves up and we don't know it. We're shooting ourselves in the foot and don't even understand it. So, thanks for listening. And I hope that one day this message will be irrelevant. I really do. I'm not doing what I do and telling you what I say about the way you write because I hate you or because I'm a snob. I'm doing it because this is the only weapon you got. You better use it right. That's why. Sometimes it's a shield. You want to use that right. Because if you don't use it right, your enemy, and you know who I'm talking about, can turn around and go to people who were not your enemies and make them into your enemies because they can use English correctly and you can't. You cannot write this way with people for whom English is a second language, even if they do know English. But it's their second language. You can't do it because there's no class where they can go to take AAVE. Just like you can't take a class on Dominican slang. You can take a class in Spanish. You can't take one in Dominican slang, though. And see, here's the funny thing. That game that you be trying to master, and I'm talking even the guys on my side of the red pill awareness line, that game you be trying to master in Portuguese and in Spanish so you can flirt is also necessary for business to get things done, to convince people that you know what the hell you're talking about. You can be a good doctor, but if you don't speak the language of the patient and there's no translator around, they're not going to trust you because they don't know if you're good or not. Same thing here. You need to do something with people that requires trust and cooperation. Language is a weapon. It is also a way just to show them that, you know what, you do learn things. You don't just make assumptions and start talking without knowing what you're talking about. If you can't spell in your own first language, you are a nigga that talks without knowing what he's talking about. Maybe you're not, but I can't tell the difference. Because how you gonna know what you're talking about? You gotta read, and if you can read, you can write correctly. At some point. So when people are writing incorrectly, I know they don't read. If they don't read, what the hell are they doing writing? It's like a nigga that talks but doesn't listen, and we have a lot of that too. If he doesn't listen and learn anything, what the hell is this nigga doing talking and teaching? That's what I'm getting at, folks. We all about the output. We got to focus on input and output in proper forms and in a proper balance. That's all I'm trying to get at. Thanks for listening. I'm not saying this from hatred, but for your benefit. Black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum. Sorry about that. P.S. I almost forgot. If you are writing in English and it is your second language and you make those mistakes, I'm not even pointing the finger at you because you're learning a second language. So if you are with somebody for whom English is a second language, don't take any offense. You should not be offended at what I've said. I am directing my message at those who are illiterate at a functional level, at an adult level, in their own first language. Now, if for you English is a second language, but you're not functionally literate in your own first language, be offended by what I just said. Thanks again. All right, for real this time, black heart, black mind, blackout. Assalamu alaikum.